Sarle. Okay. So it's very exciting news. You should have only continued health and happiness and gesund for many, many years, God willing. That's that's the easy part. Should be health. That's the most important thing, right? Should be gesund. Okay, if you are watching us online, we just went live, so please say hi. I'm getting a minute so we can say hello to everyone before we start. Well, Randy, I have to thank you also to her for being so loving to Kedora. She told me about her food and yeah, she really, it's a beautiful mitzvah. It's a beautiful, beautiful mitzvah, and thank you for being a beautiful community. No, you guys are doing it's a beautiful thing you're doing. Oh, to Michelle? Michelle changed her linen. I think Michelle's like really, really, yeah, okay, she didn't say that, just the linen part, but okay. Look, it's a beautiful mitzvah. So thank you to you and Marsha. If you're watching us, Marsha, I don't know if Marsha's online. Marsha, we miss you. Oh, they got Marsha. Look, Marsha. Good night from DC. Marsha, we're talking about how amazing you and everyone is taking care of the door. Okay, Ravita is watching us and Kim is watching us. We can start if you're watching me on Chabad.org. L'chaim. I haven't seen the comments yet, but I guess you're. Oh, here we go. Jessica. Hi, Jessica. Good evening. We're ready to start. Okay, my friends, you ready? Good evening, Sadell. Good evening, Robert. Good evening, Michael. Good evening, Bruce. Good evening, Saul. Good evening, Shlomo. And of course, Steve, good evening. Good evening, everyone watching us online. Okay, my friends. So, good evening, Gail. We are ready for action. Showtime it is. Tonight's learning is dedicated firstly in the memory of Yitzchak ben Yosef. Secondly, it's in the memory of my grandfather, Zalman Zuster ben Yaakov, my namesake, who tonight is his 30th yahrzeit. So tonight and soon is going to be his 30th yahrzeit. I remember his funeral 30 years ago. His first one was ever at a funeral. So tonight's his 30th yahrzeit. So tonight's learning will be in his memory as well. And for Shlomo, for all those in need, for health and gesund and good things. Okay. So the good evening, Art. We actually missed you for a few weeks, Art. So I'm glad you're back and I'm glad you're with us. Hello, Heidi. I'm glad that you are watching. Okay. So tonight's topic is true Jewish wisdom. I think I will share some stories of my grandfather maybe later. But true Jewish wisdom is the title, which right away brings to my mind one of my favorite Jewish jokes. It's a good one. It's a smart one. It's a Yiddish cup. You know what a Yiddish cup means? Yeah, a Yiddish cup. So this young Jewish boy, he's on the train, and he's trying to mind his own business. We're back in Russia, you know what I'm saying? Trying to mind his own business with all the Russian Bulvans and the peasants that are on the train that are giving this little Jew dirty looks. He's trying to mind his own business. So at some point, he takes out his lunch to go eat his little herring. There's a few pieces of herring. He's about to eat. And this big peasant sitting next to him, who's been pestering him before, starts nudging him. Says, "You Jews, you think you're all so smart? You think you're so intelligent? You think what makes you Jews so smart?" And first, the Jew being smart is trying to keep his mouth shut and not get into trouble. But the bully is not giving up so fast. He keeps on pestering him. Tell me, you think you're so smart? What makes Jews so smart? So finally, this young man says to the peasant, "You want to know the secret what makes us smart? Our herring. The herring I'm about to eat, the herring is what makes us smart. Just herring." Just okay. Listen, you want to know the secret? The secret is Jewish herring makes us smart. Says, "Yeah, give me some of your herring. So I'll sell it to you for 10 ruble a piece. I'll sell you some herring." Now, herring costs, I don't know, a ruble. A ruble for a pound. 10 ruble for a piece of herring is a lot of money for a piece of, it's like, going to fine sushi. It's a pre-sushi days. Anyway, but he wants to try some Jewish herring and get smart. So he pays 10 ruble. He gets a piece of herring. He eats a piece of herring. He's thinking, so, I don't know why I just gave you 10 ruble for one piece of herring. I could buy a whole pound of herring for a ruble. Why did I pay you $10? The Jew says, you see, it's working already. Okay. So hello, Merle and Gail and Carlos and Lori and Art and everyone else. We're going to talk about real Jewish wisdom, how to really be smart. The true secret to being a Yiddish cup. It's not from eating herring, not from eating schmaltz, and not from eating a kugel or a gefilte fish. What's the secret of being a Yiddish cup? What's the secret to being smart? So stay tuned, my friends. I'll tell you. We're going to learn together one of the most famous Mishnahs in all of Pirkei Avos, in all of ethics of our fathers. Now, the Mishnah has 4 parts to it. Each part is a beautiful teaching in and of itself. Each part could be a whole class. I want to spend at least like 2-3 minutes on each part, a few minutes on each part. And then I'm going to go back to the first part about wisdom. I want to develop it a little bit more and to truly talk about the secret of being smart the way a Jew is smart. Okay? So let's start from the beginning of this Mishnah. It's a Mishnah taught by a man called Ben Zoma. Now, Ben Zoma is not his first name, obviously. It means he was the son of a man called Zoma. But we don't know his first name, or at least not in the text. We do know that his name was actually Shimon. His name was Shimon Ben Zoma, but it does not say his name. Why doesn't it say his name? Not only there's no rabbi, it doesn't say even his first name. Just when you call somebody the last name, they're usually in trouble, right? Like, or there's a lot of people by the same first name. So if you go to Chabad school and you say Mendel, you got like 15 kids. Or, Jojo, we have a guy in our community, Yoel, he was named the year after the Satmar Rebbe passed away. He said every single kid in his class, as Jojo the story, every single kid in his class has Yoel. So they had to make other names, Yoel Aleph, Yoel Beis. So there were 4 Shimons that lived in his time, or 4 rabbis who were all called Shimon. So to differentiate one Shimon from the next, they were called by their last name, so by their father's names. That was their last name back then. That's simple. But really, there's more to the story. You may be familiar of a famous statement in the Talmud, a famous story in the Talmud, of 4 great rabbis who merited to enter into the orchard of heaven, so to say, into paradise, into what's called the Pardes in Hebrew. And there they beheld the vision of God. Remember such a story? You heard about it. Such a story. There were 4 rabbis. One of them went crazy from the experience. One of them died from the experience. One became a heretic. And only one went in peace and came in peace. That was Rabbi Akiva. Who was the one that went in and became crazy? Ben Zoma. No, Rabbi Akiva came out normal. He was nichnas b'shalom v'yatza b'shalom. The one that couldn't handle the tremendous revelation of God was Ben Zoma. This rabbi that we're going to quote over here. And that's why he very young, he didn't pass away, but very young, he kind of like stopped being a rabbi. He never even got smicha. He was a very, very holy person on a very high spiritual level, which is why he was able to enter into the paradise, into the spiritual orchard. But because he went in and that impacted for the rest of his life, he never finished getting his formal smicha. And so he was just named by Ben Zom by his father's name. Okay. That's the author of the Mishnah. Now, before he went crazy, he was on the very high spiritual level. He was rich, he was wise, he was respected, he was a strong person. He had all the qualities we're going to talk about in this Mishnah. And he's the one that teaches us how a Jew should be wise, how a Jew should be happy, how a Jew should be honored, and how a Jew should be wealthy. So let's start with the Mishnah. It's the very first Mishnah of chapter 4 of Pirkei Avos, of Ethics of Our Fathers, the very first Mishnah of chapter 4. Ben Zoma Omer. Ben Zoma said, Ezeu Chacham, who is a wise person? Halomed Mikol Adam. Someone, not with a PhD, not who went to get a master's and a second master's and a third master's. Who is wise? Someone who learns from every single person. As it is said, from all who have taught me, I have gained understanding. Okay? That's the first thing. Who is mighty? Who is a gibor? Someone who subdues his evil inclination. As it is said that he is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he that rules the spirit is greater than he that takes the city. I mean, the verse is saying that someone that's slow to anger, that's able to control their natural impulse to respond, and they can control themselves, is more powerful, is better than the mighty person, and the one that rules the spirit is greater than the one that takes the city. Let's go through all 4, then we'll go back. Who is rich? He who rejoices in his lot. He's happy. Asher, famous line, he's happy with what he has. As it is said, you shall enjoy the fruit of your labors. You shall be happy and you shall prosper. You shall be happy in this world and you shall prosper in the world to come. And finally, who is he that is honored? He who honors his fellow human beings. As it is said, for I honor those that honor me, but those who spurn me shall be dishonored. Okay, there's so much here. Maybe I should do one piece at a time. But either way, let's go through these 4 pieces. And then I'm going to go back to the wise one more. Okay, so we're going to come back to it. But let's just start at the simple level. This Mishnah is, first of all, a very, very famous Mishnah. A very beautiful Mishnah. But we understand that what makes someone wise? What makes you wise is your desire to learn from everyone. The moment the person says, I already have enough information, I already learned, I only learn, I only read, I only study from, college professors, I only study from rabbis. The moment you start thinking, I already have enough information, you already start declining in your wisdom. A truly wise person is someone who's always looking for ways to expand their knowledge, and even someone who does not know a lot. If you're looking to learn, then you're wise. Meaning the definition of wisdom in Judaism is not how much you know. It's how much you're looking to learn. I'll say that again carefully. The definition of wisdom in Judaism is not how much you know. It's not how many books you've read, or how many podcasts you've listened to, or how many classes you've attended. It's how much you're looking for wisdom. So you can be very educated, but if your natural instinct when you see someone not as sophisticated or as cultured or as educated as you makes a comment and you just brush them off, you're not looking for a learning experience or a learning moment in every interaction. You're not searching for wisdom, you're not truly wise. Okay? If you're always looking to learn, that's wisdom. That's the first statement. The second statement, who is a gibor? Who is a mighty person? So this is perhaps one of the most quintessential Jewish statements right here. One of the things, and I've said this many times, that makes Judaism distinct from other cultures and other nations of the world. You look at any other culture. Who are their great heroes? Warriors, generals. Alexander the Great. What made him great? He was able to conquer a big territory, right? Napoleon, he was a great man. Why was he great? He was a narcissistic, egomaniac, but he was great because he was strong, he was a fighter, he was a warrior. And in the cultures, in the, so to say, in the icons of the world, people that are very strong, very fast, very good wrestlers, good sportsmen, good, athletic, that's a hero. And in Judaism, who is a hero? Not a strong person, not someone that can lift weights or can win an arm wrestling match. The Jewish ideal of strength and might is someone that can control their own inclination. So a holy Jew, a rabbi, a spiritual person who's working on controlling their emotions and working on becoming a better person, a more in control human being. To us, that's a strong person. Just because you can lift 1,000 pounds, you can compete in some, weightlifting competition on America's Got Talent, and you can stand on your head and balance, whatever on your toes and whatever. That's great. Good for you. That's not what makes you. That's not what makes you a strong person. And I'll say even more. If the definition of strength in the human world is that you can lift 1,000 pounds, or you can stand on your head, or you can, juggle or whatever, then you're not really any different than a gorilla or a bear. You're the same strength as a small beer. That's all. If all that defines strength is brute power, then there's nothing fundamentally different between the strong human being and the gorilla. What makes us different than an animal is our ability to control our natural emotions, the natural feeling of anger a person might feel at someone, the natural feeling of contempt, anger, jealousy, whatever it is, scorn. And we can control those emotions. That's what makes a Jew a strong person. Okay? What's the third statement? Ezeu Asher. Who is rich? What makes someone rich? Says the rabbis, Hasameach bechalko, someone who is happy with his lot. He's happy with his lot. And by the way, You see this in the world today. You notice it does not say the rich and happy. You ever heard that expression, the rich and happy? No. What do they call the rich and? Famous. But not for good things. The rich are not necessarily happy. If you're rich, you're famous. But happiness and riches are in no way synonymous. In no way synonymous. So I can show you people that are rich, not happy. I can show you people that are happy, that are not rich. Because the definition of richness, the Jewish richness, is not measured by how much money one has in the bank account, but rather it's measured by how satisfied you are with what you have. How satisfied, not only love, how satisfied you are. If you're happy with what you have, that's riches. There's a beautiful, it's not a Jewish story, but there's a beautiful story about this idea, about this guy who's a fisherman somewhere, I don't know. And he comes back early in the morning, he went out to catch his fish. He caught a full net, full whatever, and he comes back, I don't know, 9 o'clock in the morning. He's coming back to the shore. So some guy standing on the dock, and none of the fishermen come back at 9 in the morning. They go out at sunrise, they come back in the afternoon with a full boat full. This guy's coming back, he caught one net, he's coming back. He says, why are you coming back so early? There's still many hours to go fishing. He says, I caught enough for the day. I caught enough. I have enough to keep me going. I don't need to catch any more. He says, yeah, but if you would catch more, you would make more money. So, okay, and if I make more money, then what would I do with it? So you can build a whole business. If you're doing well enough, you can hire someone to go with you on the boat. You don't do it all by yourself. You can hire a helper and help you sell it. And then you can sell it wholesale. You can sell much more volume and you make even more money. So, okay, if I make more money, then what will happen? So then you can buy a second, you can hire more people to get a second boat. And then you have two boats at the same time, bringing in double the catch. And you'll sell even more, make even more money. Okay, and if I make more money, well, if you make more money, you have a whole fleet. You don't have to go, you have a whole system and you can have a store of your own. You won't have to sell to other stores. You can be your own store and you can make all the money. You won't have to give it to anyone. So now what? So you'll be really rich. You can retire and then you can go hang out once you retire, you can go and smoke a cigar and, play banjo, I don't know, whatever. Enjoy the sunset, enjoy life. But that's what I'm going to do today. That's what I'm doing already. I'm already going to enjoy my life. Why do I need to make money to become rich so I can retire and enjoy my life? I'm enjoying it already. That's the gist of the story. So the point is, who is happy? Someone who's happy with what he has. Now, I have to just clarify two things. Number one is this does not mean that Torah is saying don't work. It doesn't mean that Torah is saying don't try and make money. That's not what it's saying. Judaism wants a person to work and to put in the effort and to use all of your resources and all of your brain power and all of your capacity to be the best that you can be. However, what we're talking about is your mindset. We're talking about how emotionally invested are you in that success. So if you pay attention to the word, I want to go back to the words of the Mishnah for a second. I'm going to share my screen again because this is important and it has a lot of, it's a very, this really could be a class of its own, but maybe I should have. Maybe it should be its own class. Maybe next week. Oh, there won't be a class next week. Won't be here. But maybe, whatever. I'm going to explain it now because I don't want to leave it untouched. I want this to be understood properly. If you look at the third statement, who is rich? He who rejoices in his lot, right? And look at what it says. What's the verse that he's quoting? You shall enjoy the fruit of your labors. You shall be happy. And you shall prosper. And then he clarified, almost like it doesn't belong in the Mishnah. You shall be happy is referring to being happy in this world. The verse is repetitive. The verse says, you shall be happy and you'll prosper. Or in the Hebrew, ashracha v'tovlach. You'll be happy and it'll be good for you. Why I say twice it'll be good for you? So the rabbis, Ben Zoma, is explaining the verse, you shall be happy means you'll be happy in this world. You shall prosper means you're going to prosper in the world to come. So why is he bringing in this world, the world to come? Like, what's the connection? So the rabbis explain that what it's saying over here is that you shall work. Go to work in the morning. Make more money. But do it in a way where it's good for you. Do it in a way where it's the work of your hands. Gegia kapecha is the work of your hands that you will eat, and then it'll be good for you. What do you mean the work of your hands? I really should make this own class because I didn't, but I'm going to say it. What do you mean the work of your hands? We know Yaakov, before he went to travel to his uncle in Haran, what did Yaakov do? He put stones around his head, right? He went to sleep, put stones around his head. Why did he put stones around his head? protect himself from the animals. So why was he only protecting his head? What about his arms and his legs? If an animal comes and bites his leg, no big deal. I mean, I get that your head is more important than your leg, but if you're worried about animals coming in the middle of the night, why are you only protecting your head? You should protect your whole body, right? You following me? So why do you only put around his heads? So the rabbi explained something very beautiful. He knew he was going to work for his uncle who epitomizes this world, the depth of being involved in work. When you go to work, you need to work with your hands. You need to work with your body. But your head has to be kept holy and pure, that you don't become emotionally trapped in what it is that you're doing. There's some people, they work not just with their hands, not just with their brains, but their whole identity becomes consumed by what they're doing. There's a story, a famous story. I'm totally off subject. I'm carrying myself away, but the beautiful story. We'll go back. I promise. We'll go back. There's a beautiful story that the Rebbe Rashab, I think, once came to a guy that sold galoshin. You know what galoshin is? It's rain boots. Us Floridians, we don't have that because there's no rain boots. So people then in Russia, you put like boots or rubbers over your shoes, right? Galoshes. So I'm a Floridian. I only know this from the stories. I don't think I've ever in my life actually worn these, but I know that there's a concept of like rubbers you put over your shoes from the snow. So the Rebbe Rashab said to him, I've seen many people put their feet into galoshin. I've never seen someone walking around with his head in galoshin. Stan, he was so involved in his business, his whole identity, his whole head became the rubbers that he was selling. The point is, when it says happy is a person who's happy with what he has, happy is his portion, of course you try, of course you think, of course you use your brain to plan, how am I going to be successful, how am I going to, build and grow. But when you do it, it doesn't become your identity. It doesn't become who you are. It's the work of your hands. That's what it means. I'm happy with what I have. Not that I'm complacent. Not that I become lazy and I think I don't need to work harder. That's not happiness. That's laziness. And laziness and happiness are not the same thing. Laziness and happiness are not the same thing. Laziness is I'm not going to work to better myself. Happiness is I want more. I'm going to work to do better, but I don't need it to feel successful. I don't need it to be happy. I'm happy with what I have. This is something I'm doing is not identifying me. Anyway, there's a lot to be discussed on that. It's a very important topic. I have more to say, so I'm going to go on to the next topic. Yes? And by the way, one more point I wanted to make. One more point I wanted to make, which is that when a person says, I'm happy with what I have, that's only when it comes to money. Only when it comes to objects of this world. In the world to come, in religious things and spiritual things, we're never satisfied. The Rebbe told many people that the Mishnah says that who is a rich person, someone who is happy with his lot, that's referring to money. To physical things. A happy person is satisfied with the money he has, with the house he has, with the car he has, with the the job she has. When it comes to Torah, when it comes to mitzvah, when it comes to spiritual, you're never good enough. Anyway, okay, let's stop there. Next, who is honored? Who is honored? What did the Mishnah say? What's the definition of Jewish honor? Someone who honors other people. Meaning, so on a simple level, what does that mean? One who honors other people will be respected. Meaning, it makes sense logically. Logically, it's a very understandable statement. If you're going to be respectful to people, you're going to treat them with dignity and with respect and with honor, what will happen? They're going to treat you with dignity and honor and respect. So if you're respectful to others, they'll respect you in return. But there's also a spiritual element here that Hashem rewards you. That Hashem says, if you're going to treat people with dignity and with respect, I am going to make it that you are respected as well. Honor is not something you can get for yourself. Fame is. Fame, you can make your own fame. You can hire, paparazzi and whatever. And, I saw an ad once to hire paparazzi to follow you around. The guy was walking there, you want to impress someone. So you hire paparazzi to make it look like you're really important. Yeah? Some girls today, I'm sure it'll be a great birthday present for them. Their birthday, waiting at their front door, paparazzi. Can you imagine? I saw that. You can hire a whole crew of paparazzi to come run after you, take pictures of you, and stick microphones into your face to ask you what you think about that. I don't know. That's not honor. That's fame. Honor means that people respect you. People look up to you. There's a certain that Hashem gives. So when you see dignity in other people, Hashem makes it that people see in dignity and respect in you. I'll point something else out in the verse. Every statement comes with a verse attached to it, right? So if you look at the verse attached to being respected, what does the verse say? Or rather, who says the verse? Look at the fourth line. Who is he that is honored? He who honors his fellow human beings. As it is said, for I honor those that honor me, but those who spurn me shall be dishonored. You know who's talking in that verse? No, it's in the book of Shmuel. But Shmuel is quoting a prophecy from God. God says, for I honor those that honor me, but those who spurn me shall be dishonored. So we're bringing a verse from God about honoring God, and we're applying that to honoring people. What's the message over here? What's the message here? We call it Kal V'chomer. That if God honors those who honor him, right? God honors those who honor him. How much more so will God make humans honor those who honor others? Understand? If God honors a person, why were we created? To honor God. And yet because we honor God, God gives us honor. How much more so if you give honor to somebody else, God makes sure that you get honor in return as well. Okay. Anyway, I was going to do that short, but it's okay. It was short enough. That's the Mishnah. Again, it's a very beautiful Mishnah. Each part is beautiful. But now I want to talk about Jewish wisdom. That's really the one point of tonight's conversation. Tonight's class will be on how do we get true Jewish wisdom? How do we really become wise Jewish people? So what was the first statement of the Mishnah? Let's go back to the beginning. Ezeu Chacham, who is a wise man. Let's read it one more time because we're going to need to know the verse later. Also, let's read the verse one more time. Who is a wise man? What does the Mishnah say? Gesundheit. He who learns from every person. It says man, but it means person. As it said, from all those who taught me, I have gained understanding. And actually, the verse is not complete. The English translation, did I cut short the English translation? I don't think so. If you look in the Hebrew, the verse says, Mikol melamdai eskalti, from all those who have taught me, I gained understanding. Ki eitz veisecha sichali. See the Hebrew? Because your eidos, your mitzvot, your commandments, were a conversation for me. What is amazing, I copy-pasted this translation from Sefaria, which is a great resource, a great website. In the English, it didn't even translate the second half of the verse because it has no connection, seemingly, even though it does. They didn't understand the connection that the Rabbi explains, and we're going to get back to it. Anyway, I'm very shocked, but it fits. It's fine. So, my friends, who is wise? Think about this for a second. Who is wise? Someone who learns from everyone. It sounds very beautiful. It sounds very cliche-ish. Could definitely be a bumper sticker. For sure, a bumper sticker. But think about it honestly. If you're really smart and you've learned a lot, and now you're getting wiser and wiser, does everyone you meet have something to teach you? Or there's some people who you would say that they're, at this point in my life, they have no value. There's nothing that they can really teach me I don't already know. You would think, objectively, that the more you know, the less people around have what to still teach you don't know. You don't agree, which is good. You don't agree, that's fine. Some people feel that way. And by the way, what I'm saying is not correct. That's why it's only a question. It's not a statement. You might think, as I get wiser, not everyone can teach me. I need to be more selective. Who are my teachers? Who are my sources of information? I'm already a very wise, educated, sophisticated person. Not everyone has something to teach me. And yet, the Torah that the Rabbi Ben Zoma is teaching us, then no. If you want to be wise, you have to be able to learn from anyone. So simply, what does that mean? That I need to be open to realizing even someone that's inferior to me sometimes might be right and I might be wrong. They may have something to tell me that I may have not realized. And that's the sign of true wisdom. Because wisdom is not that I know, as I already said this before, but I want to clarify, it's not that I know a lot. That just means I know a lot. That's a bookcase of a lot of information. Wisdom is a search for more understanding. And a truly wise person is not embarrassed to humble himself and say, there's something here that I didn't think of. That person that I don't like, that I don't respect, that I don't think is so smart, that person said something that I hadn't thought of. And if you're truly smart, you'll be humble enough to accept that. Humble enough to accept that. There's a very famous saying that says, I learned a lot from my teachers. I learned more from my friends, but I learned most from my students. From my students. Now, sometimes that's just because when you teach, you understand things better. That's a simple explanation. When you teach, but sometimes a student, the one who's much lower than you in wisdom, just by asking a question, just by making a statement, just by sharing a thought or a perspective, can give you a wisdom you never would have gotten even from your teachers. Yes. Say again, the more you know, of course. The more you know how little you know. That's correct. The more you know how little you know. But here we're saying something, it's not a conflict, not a contradiction, it's a slightly different point, which is that the more you know, also the more humble you should be to still listen to other people. A lot of people might know a lot, and they might know how much more there is to know, but they're very stuck up about, who they're going to accept from. There are some smart people that know there's more to know, but they feel that there's no one to teach them. There's no one to teach me. We have to be willing to accept there's always more for me to learn. And in fact, as the rabbis explain, the commentaries say, there's two ways to acquire wisdom. One way of acquiring wisdom is through hearing it from somebody else, reading it, hearing it. And the other way of acquiring wisdom is through self-introspection, through thinking about something. Now, in general, you cannot think about something you haven't already learned about, or else you're totally making it up. And some people do that. There's philosophers today. I'm being a little facetious, a warning in advance. There's philosophers today that are sitting on park benches or sitting on TikTok and they have no wisdom that they've gained from anyone, no real life experience, no real foundation, and they're pontificating, but it's a lot of verbiage and words that are just floating around in outer space without any grounding in reality. And if that's true, there's a joke, but I don't remember this, I'm not going to say it. But if that's true in the world, how much more so in Torah? In Torah, the whole Torah is about the tradition of the Torah, the Masorah, how it was taught to us, how God gave it, and how Torah is not just about what I think makes sense, or what I think would be spiritual, or what I think would be romantic. Torah is about what God says. That's what Torah is all about. That's what it's all about. And so the moment we become convinced that we've figured it all out, and I can learn by myself without accepting from others, is the moment we lose our foundation and our grounding. And a quote-unquote smart person who's not grounded on truth can very, very quickly fly away into very, very dangerous, sophisticated sounding nonsense, to put it very bluntly. So this is, on a simple level, the first, I think, very important idea in Jewish wisdom. Not to allow ourselves to think that we can self-figure it out. We can't self-figure it out. The world is full of these philosophies and ideas that come and go with the wind, literally with the wind, because they were self-invented, and they'll last for as long as they can last until reality hits them in the face. And then the new generation will come with a new self-invented reality. The uniqueness of Jewish wisdom is its foundation on our tradition. Its foundation upon a Masorah, which means the handed down tradition, all the way from Sinai, from Moses on Mount Sinai. And this is how we live our lives. So it's not just how smart I am. It's how smart I can be with the information that has been taught to me by so many people. And we never stop learning from others means we never stop accepting that there's a tradition that I'm receiving that grounds my learning. Okay. I'll share with you on that. There's a verse. Look at this beautiful verse from King Solomon. You want to see a beautiful verse from King Solomon? What does King Solomon say? King Solomon's a wise man. What does King Solomon say? A fool's way is straight in his eyes, but he who listens to advice is a wise man. You hear that? A fool is straight in his own eyes. A fool's way is straight in his eyes, but he who listens to advice is a wise man. I think if you know a lot of young people today, you can see this, and it's not only young people. I'm not picking on young people. I know old people are the same way. I know that convince themselves of their own path, of their own philosophy, and it's not based on anything. It's purely self-made up. It's dangerous. Talk to such people, it's like there's no grounding. There's no grounding. So this is the first advice that we have, to listen to advice. That's the definition of wisdom. Being open to listen. Okay. Clear? So that's lesson number one. To be wise is not how much you know, but it's how much you're searching for the information, how much you're willing to hear from others. And now let's get a little Chassidus in. Let's go a little deeper. A little Chassidus on this idea, which is as follows. The verse that Ben Zoma quotes to prove this idea that a wise person is someone who's able to learn from every single person. What's his source? He brings from a verse in chapter 119 of Tehillim. And the verse says as follows. From all those who taught me, I have become wise, which fits perfectly. That means anyone that teaches me gives me wisdom. But then he quotes the second half of the verse, which seemingly has nothing to do with the topic at hand. What's the second half of the verse? Your statutes were a conversation for me. Your conversations were a statute for me. We know there's different kinds of mitzvot. One kind of mitzvah is edotecha, your commandments, your statutes, or your laws, your testimonies rather. Your testimonies is the right translation. Your testimonies are a conversation for me. What does this have to do with learning from every single person? Because seemingly there's no connection, right? Ben Zoma is saying, who is wise? Someone who learns from everyone. And the verse starts by saying, I learned from everyone. But then the verse goes on to talk about the testimonies of God. How does that prove that you can learn from everyone? Hashem's not everyone. Ben Zoma is not saying if you're wise, you can learn from God. No doubt, you don't need a rabbi to tell you that. Anyone can tell you that. Ben Zoma's novelty is that even someone that you think is not as smart as you, is not as educated as you, etc., he can also teach you. How do you see that from the second half of the verse? So, my friends, the word edotech, I hope I haven't lost you guys. So, if you guys are following the question, I'm trying to give you now a deeper understanding of why, not just the fact. Okay, let me reframe it this way. Here's what we're about to do now for the next few minutes. Not to prove the point that you can learn from everyone. I already made the point. Ben Zoma made the point. Any single person in the world can teach you wisdom. What we're going to discover now from Chassidus is the why. Why is it that there are idiots out there that can still give me information and wisdom that I would not have gotten otherwise? That's really what the Mishnah is saying. You can meet an idiot or a sinner, and you can learn from that person. From every person you can learn. Why is that? So the verse says, I can learn from everyone because your testimonies are a talk from me. You know what the word testimony means? Learn from someone else's mistake. Very good. There's a verse. Let's look at the verse. We'll read it together. It's taken from the book of Isaiah, chapter 43, verse number 10, where God says the following statement about the Jewish people. God says about the Jews, Atem Eidain Hashem. You are my witness, says the Lord. Va'avdi asher becharti, and you are my servant whom I chose, in order that you know and believe me and understand that I am He. What is God calling us in this verse? God is calling us His testimony, or we are a witness to God. Meaning, how do you know that God exists in the world? What's the witness? What's a witness? You lent him money, right? How do I know that? I was a witness. I saw. I have testimony. So what's the witness? How do I know? How do I see God in the world? People are the witness of God. We are the testimony of God's existence. You want to know God exists? Look at a human being. Yes, you can see God in the whole world. The fact that there's galaxies and oceans and rivers and flowers and butterflies are all proofs of God's existence. But if you want to really, really, really see a testimony of God's greatness, of God's uniqueness, look at a human being. So the verse that God says, I'm not making this up, God says, Atam Eidai Nu'um Hashem, you are my witnesses, says the Lord. If I need a testimony that God exists, what's the testimony in the world that God exists? You and you and you and you, all of you, and all of you guys online. You guys are the witness. You see a person, and that person is a testimony to God's being. Every human being expresses another one of the infinite faces of our infinite creator. And that's what there's a famous statement in the Talmud I meant to put on the paper, and then I had someone in my office, and I forgot to copy it. The Talmud says, just like no two people have the same face, so too no two people have the same opinion. Just like their faces are not the same, their minds are not the same. Now, how could that be? Doesn't it say that every man's created in the image of God? So how many, if me and you, let's say a parent is a child, right? This child is a spitting image, let's say my kids, right? So Mushka is a spitting image of me. You heard her talk and planning, she's a copy of me. And guess what? Zalman is a copy of me, and Menucha is a copy of me, and Bracha is a copy of me, and I'm pretty good, by the way. Chana got just and Simi is a copy of Chana. So Chana has one general, image, so the one personality. And so if a kid's going to be in her image, they're going to be a certain way. The kids that are in her image are not in my image, and the kids that are in my image are not in her image. We're different. There's only a certain number of images that can come out of my image. So if every single human being is created in the image of God, how could every single person be different? We're all from the same source, though. We're all coming from the same mold. Imagine I give you 100 different coins. They all look different. Well, they all came out of the same mold. How could that be? Right? They came out of the same mold. They would look the same. And yet the Talmud says, as a statement of greatness, there's not one single human being in the world whose facial feature is exactly the same as another. Today, even the AI knows that. This is like a statistically, scientifically proven fact. You can have two siblings. There's differences. There's something that one doesn't have like the other. And so too, God made not just the external mind of the person look different, the external face of the person look different. God also made the internal face of the person. Everyone's different. How could that be? We all come from the same mold. How is that possible? How is that possible? How is that possible? How is it possible that three people can come from the same exact place and all look totally different? All my kids come from the same place. They don't look totally different. There's a lot of they're very similar. And what's the answer? Every one of us being different and unique is a reflection of our creator. That's an infinite creator. So if you want to really see the infinity of God, where do you see that? In the fact that every single person is different, and yet we're all from the same source, in the same mold. Well, yeah, every fingerprint is different, and every snowflake is different. So yeah, it's the same point, exact same point. But so when God says that you are my witnesses, says the Lord. That's a verse from Isaiah, the prophecy. Isaiah is quoting God. And God says, you want proof, you want a testimony, you want some kind of a proof or a sign in this world that God exists, that God is infinite? Look at all the different human beings. They were all created in the image of the same God. And see how each one looks different, each one acts different, each one thinks different, each one responds differently, and they all come from the same source. Oh, that's a proof that God is infinite. So we are called the testimony of God. And so here, my friend, is what this explains. This is the real teaching of Ben Zoma. Ben Zoma is not just telling us that if you're wise and you meet someone who says something that makes sense, you listen to it. Ben Zoma is saying that every single person can teach you. Why? Because every single person is a testimony of God's existence. Because every single person is a reflection of God. And therefore, every single person has the ability to communicate some message, some lesson, some teaching, some inspiration to you that you wouldn't have had otherwise. Because they have a unique dimension of God that no one else has. Even your teacher, even your husband, even your best friend, even your next door. This person has something unique. So in the verse that Ben Zoma is quoting to us in its entirety, he's hinting a very, very important message. Not just that Mikol Melamdai Hiskalti, from all those who taught me I became wise. He continues by telling me that Kol Eidvei Secha, that every one, not of your commandments, every one of your human beings, every one of your people that you created as a reflection and a testimony of your existence, they are all conversation to me. My interaction with them also has something to teach me. That's what it means to be wise. That even someone who may look like they're a sinner, they may look like they're a wicked person, they may look like they're a complete, absolute, certifiable idiot. There are such people, they carry certification of their stupidity. Such a person is also a reflection of an infinite God that can somehow be reflected in that person that has epic levels of immaturity and stupidity. And you can learn from them too. That person is a reflection of God. That person too. And the wise person can gain instruction from them too. In fact, you know what makes you an Adam? Ezel Chacham. Haloi made me call. What's a Chacham? He learned from everyone, from the previous Rebbe. Because that's what makes you an Adam. What makes you a man? What makes you a learner? That in every situation, from every person you see, in every interaction, you can learn something. So Baal Shem Tov explain. Okay, that's a statement. Got it? What could you learn from a sinner? What could you learn from an idiot? What? Oh, very good. So Baal Shem Tov explains. What I'm telling you now is not my own thought. It's from the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov explains this. This idea that every single person is a reflection of God. And every single person what to teach us. What if this person is someone I cannot find anything positive to learn from them? There's nothing about them that looks like a role model to me in my life or wisdom that I should take from them. From them you can learn what not to be. Sometimes it's the best teacher, the most important teacher is not to make the same mistakes. You can learn from their conduct what to avoid. And that too is considered as having learned from them. And this is what the Baal Shem Tov teaches. A basic idea in the Hasidic philosophy, based in part from the Mishnah we just read, based on 3 different sources. This is just one of them. But this idea that the Baal Shem Tov teaches us, and which is a cornerstone in the Hasidic worldview, that any time we interact with any single person, could even not be people, but for sure a person, there is a divine reflection over here. And that means that there's something either good or something not good that I should learn from, that I can take from this person. Every interaction. And if not, I'm missing the message. So there was a student of the Baal Shem Tov, a student of the Maggid. His name was Reb Zusha of Anipoli. That was his name. He was a very, very holy man. He was a colleague of the Alter Rebbe. For those who know the beginning of the Chabad movement was the Alter Rebbe. He had a colleague, a very dear friend, whose name was Reb Zusha of Anipoli. So Rabbi Zusha actually said he learned from a thief. He once met a thief. And he learned from a thief 7 lessons in serving God. 7 lessons in serving God. And he goes through, and the Rebbe actually writes this in the Hayom Yom. The Rebbe, the first book that the Rebbe published was like a daily teaching for the day. And the Rebbe brings 7 lessons you can learn from a thief. What are the 7 things you can learn from a thief? Number 1, he does things quietly without fanfare. Doesn't look to me. Some people, they want to do a mitzvah. Everyone look, ladies and gentlemen, about to do a good deed, pay attention. I'm about to, give me a minute. You're looking? Okay, now I can go do it. Right? A thief doesn't look for attention. He goes quietly. No one should see. No one needs to know that he's doing a mitzvah. He's shash still. It's a beautiful lesson, serving God. Number 2, he's willing to take risks to achieve his goal. He doesn't say, well, if it works out, if the mitzvah comes my way, I'll do it. If not, I don't. He actively works to get it. He takes risks to get it. Number 3 is he realizes how even the smallest of details is important to be precise. Successful thieves are not sloppy. I mean, the sloppy ones are not so successful. They end up in jail. The good ones, the professionals, the ones we want to learn from. The smallest detail, the timing of the second, the way you pick the lock, every detail is very important. Every detail of a mitzvah is very important. Number 4, he puts in tremendous effort and toil in doing what he does. When he's doing it, he's focused on that and nothing else. They don't stop to check their WhatsApp in the middle of a robbery, middle of praying. Just a second, I'm gonna check my phone for a minute, make sure the world's still standing. Okay, back to the prayers. Yeah, he does something, fully focused on what he does. Number 5, he's swift about it. Doesn't waste time. It's an important lesson in serving God. You have an opportunity. Don't waste time to do a mitzvah. Number 6, he is confident in his ability. A thief never said, I don't know if I can do it or not. They're going to try. They're convinced that they can do it, right? And number 7 is if at first he fails, he tries again. A good thief doesn't give up the first time. They walked by, someone drove by, okay, I'll come back tomorrow night. It's okay, we'll try it again. 7 lessons. This great Hasidic Rebbe, his name is Rabbi Zusha, who wrote an approbation on the Tanya. The Alter went to him to get a letter on the Tanya. He's writing lessons that you can learn from a thief. Seemingly, a thief is a criminal, a terrible person. 7 lessons. Tell you something more. There was a famous Chabad Chassid who passed away already. He lived in communist Russia. He ended up being arrested for the terrible crime of trying to help Jews learn Torah and helping Jews escape from Russia. His name was Mendel Futterfass. I've shared many stories of Mendel Futterfass. He was a great, great man. Futterfass. Yeah, you ate at his grandson's home. Shlomi Futterfass, who is my wife's uncle. Yes, those that went to Shabbat Mahal with me 2 years ago, we ate in Shlomi Futterfass's home. He's actually the cook in camp where my kids are now. His grandfather is this Mendel Futterfass that I'm talking about. And he told the stories, but when he went to the chuppah, his grandfather walked down the aisle, whatever. Yeah. So this is the man I'm talking about. So Mendel Futterfass, unfortunately, spent a number of years in a Soviet labor camp somewhere in Siberia for the crime of teaching Torah and doing good deeds and helping Jews. And he has many, many, many stories he learned in prison. Many. I've shared some of them with the pickpocket that he learned lessons from the pickpocket and the tightrope walker. I'll tell you, there's many stories. If I have time, I'll say I have a few things I want to say. I'll tell you. I'll go back to the tightrope walker. He learned many, many lessons. And he said, why did Rabbi Zusha say there are only 7 things to learn from a thief? Because he never spent time in prison with them. If he would have spent time in prison with a thief, he would have learned hundreds of lessons from a thief. He only knew about a thief in theory, so he only was able to learn 7 lessons. I was in prison with him. I can tell you hundreds of lessons. Hundreds of lessons. Anyway, the point is, I'll tell you one story. One story. So one story of Mendel Futterfass was in prison. I have more stories. This is a good one too, though. Mendel Futterfass was in prison. He shares the story many times. He shared the story. That one day, there was some celebration. I forgot what it was. Someone passed away or something, and that there was a celebration of the camp. So they gave the prisoners time off from work to relax and celebration of whatever it was, a Russian holiday, whatever. So they made a quasi circus. And a lot of the prisoners were not actually criminals and thieves. They were political prisoners. One of them had been a tightrope walk in the circus. He was arrested for whatever crime. So he sets up a rope going from one end of the tallest building in the camp to the other building across like the main road of the prison camp. He climbs up on the roof. There's a trick, and they had never seen a tightrope walker before. And this guy walks on the rope, going from one side to the other. He walks, turns around, and walks back. Everyone's amazed. They clap. They love it. It's a great trick. But as I said, the Mendel didn't just want to see a magic trick. He wanted to learn the lesson in serving God. And so the Mendel and Futerfas came to him later. They were friends. All the prisoners had a lot of respect for Mendel Futerfas. He was a very respected prisoner. So he said, tell me, like, what's this trick? What's the secret? How do you manage to walk across the tightrope and not fall, not scared? So he said to the Mendel a beautiful technique and how he's able to walk across the tightrope, which is a beautiful lesson on how to serve God, how to live life. What's the technique? When you get on that tightrope and you take your first step, the only thing he thinks about is getting to the other end. He doesn't think about how far down the rope is, if he falls, how much. Doesn't think about balancing himself. Doesn't think about anything. The only thing he focuses with laser precision on the end. And every step he puts is just to get him closer to where he needs to go. That's how he's able to walk across. He said to Mendel, you wonder the hardest part of walking a tightrope is? What do you think is the hardest part of walking the tightrope? Not the first step. Not the next step. There's one moment when you turn around. And there's one moment when you can't see your goal. That one moment when you haven't yet fixed your eyes on the goal and your entire mind is focused on where you need to get to is the only scary moment when he's scared on the tightrope. That's a beautiful lesson in serving God from a non-Jewish tightrope walker. Lesson in serving God. This, my friends, is a fundamental idea in the Hasidic worldview. That in every interaction we experience, in every story we experience, in every place we go, there is something in this experience for us to learn. And this is so many stories. Story of the tightrope walker. I was reading today. So there's a letter that the 6th Lubavitcher Rebbe, the previous Rebbe, wrote, and he was going medical treatment near Vienna in the spring of 1935. I was actually looking for a story of the Rebbe and I wanted to verify the details, and this story came up. And basically, he wrote in this letter, the previous Rebbe wrote, I want to read this to you because it's beautiful. He wrote as follows: it was a source of much pleasure to me today when I experienced something which can be applied as a lesson in man's service of his Creator. He's writing, it was a source of great joy to me. He was sick. He's getting medical care in Pirkei Sanatorium in near Vienna. He's getting medical care. What was the great moment of elation that he learned something in serving God? The doctor came to administer to me a certain treatment, which included the injecting of a healing drug by means of a needle. You had to get a shot. Now, most of us, when we get a shot, what are we thinking? Either, oh, it's going to hurt, and we're like bracing and we're like biting our tongue, or we look away, we don't want to see, right? So we close our eyes and just tell when it's over. The Rebbe was enjoyed. What was it he said? A source of much pleasure to watch and to learn a lesson in serving God from getting a shot. What lesson did he get from getting a shot? That's not the lesson. So he wrote that I observed the extreme care that the doctor and his assistant took in preparing for the shot. Dressed in white, wearing gloves, they meticulously examined their clothing. They washed their hands twice and 3 times and checked their nails for the slightest trace of dirt. They poured upon their fingertips a generous amount of disinfectant. Then they set to scrubbing my leg with a strong chemical, despite the fact that I just bathed. When I asked about this extensive preparation, they explained that it's an ironclad rule in medicine that before a needle penetrates living flesh, one must first go to great extremes to ensure that the entire area is utterly free of the slightest contamination. Because even there's a little bit of dirt, a little minute particle of some kind of bacteria that's on the skin or on the hands or on the nails of the doctor or the nurse, and now you're injecting this needle together with the healing drug, that one little particle of bacteria that might have gotten with the needle Not only will the healing drug not help, but God forbid, it could cause many severe illnesses, God forbid. Says the Rabbi, I learned a beautiful lesson. Often we sit at a Hasidic Farbrengen, and people need to give rebuke and give mussar and give words of reproach to a friend to help them become a little better. And sometimes when you give a word of rebuke, it's like giving a needle. You're poking the person. And sometimes you got to do that. But when you give the needle, you have to first, before the needle pricks the living flesh, says the Rabbi, one must ensure that the needle, the hands of the injector, and the area of the injection are all free of the most microscopic bit of foreign matter. There's even a little trace of ego, a little trace of some sense of self, of some sense of anger or frustration. When I give you those words of rebuke, that might, even if it's a minute little trace, not only will the rebuke not help, it can be much more dangerous. Isn't that a beautiful lesson in serving God? So most people are sitting in the doctor's office about to get pricked with a needle, and they're closing their eyes because they don't want to get hurt. And the Rebbe understands that at this moment, if a doctor is coming to give me an injection and to poke a needle into my leg, that means there's a moment of inspiration about to happen. And instead of seeing a needle, it's going to hurt him. What is he seeing? A beautiful lesson. That before you prick someone, before you give someone a word of rebuke, a word of reprimand, got to make sure your needle is totally clean. No trace of any foreign substance. It will be only love for the other person. Your hands, your fingernails need to be washed 2-3 times. Got to scrub the area. Make sure you give positive words first. Give love first. Give encouragement first. Only after you've scrubbed the area, now, with enough love, can you give the words of rebuke. Understand? The Rebbe says something even more than that. The Rebbe said, if you're in the room, you learn from everyone. If you're in the room with 10 people, and from 9 of the 10 you can see something to gain wisdom from, and 1 of the 10 you can't, then that means you're not wise. Because it says if you're wise, you can learn from everyone. If you can only learn from 9 of the 10, you still missing something. Every single person has something to teach us. And by the way, this is true not even people, even animals. So many things, the lessons of animals, and the Torah says if not for the Torah, we learn modesty from a cat and hard work from an ant, for sure from people. I'll tell you one last story, if we have time, if you forgive me, about learning a lesson in serving God from something negative, not from something positive. Positive, I can give you a million stories. The uniqueness of this Hasidic perspective is that even something that seems negative, you can learn something positive. I've said this story also, I love this story. I've said it many times. The Hasidim of the Baal Shem Tov were once traveling to the Baal Shem Tov. And on the way they passed, it was cold, it was winter. They were traveling maybe with the Baal Shem Tov. And they came across a frozen river. And what did they see on the river? Some non-Jews were carving a cross out of the ice. Carving, today you have you go to Chabad menorah land and make a menorah out of ice. They were making a tzelem, a cross out of the ice. And they're trying to be in a spiritual state of holy preparation to go see the Rebbe. And instead, what do they see? A cross. Problem. This is what we notice on the way to see the Rebbe. How could that be? How could that make sense? So they came to the Baal Shem Tov and they said, Rebbe, we're disturbed. That we were trying to be holy and spiritual, and instead of seeing something uplifting and inspiring, instead we saw some people carving a symbol of the opposite of Judaism out of the ice. So the Baal Shem Tov told them, God was sending you a very important message. That when someone becomes cold and indifferent to somebody else, which is represented by the ice of the frozen river. What's a frozen river? You're cold. You're cold to others. You're not warm and raging. You're cold. From that frozenness, from that coldness, could even come, God forbid, a cross. Understand? So you see something negative, something not positive, not uplifting. But if you have the eyes of Ben Zoma, and you're able to look with a spiritual perspective, and to recognize that if God sent me to see this situation, there's a reason why I saw this. Maybe it's to be inspired. Maybe it's to learn a life lesson. Maybe it's to know how not to act. And you look at that, and instead of saying that person's an idiot, that person's a nutnik, that person's a good for nothing, thief. Instead, you say, that person is a reflection of an infinite God. They are a testimony of God's infinity. That even God could look like this thief, like this idiot. And you allow yourself to learn from them, then you've proven you're truly smart. That, my friend, is true Jewish wisdom. Seeing the lesson of God in every single one of our interactions with every single one of God's reflections in the human race in this world. Good night, my friends. Laila Tov. Thank you. Next Monday, I will not be here, unfortunately. I'm going to Atlantic City with my family for my father-in-law's 65th birthday. We're driving up to Atlantic City. So I'm coming back Tuesday morning, God willing. There will be JLI on Tuesday night, but there will not be a class on Monday night. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it back in time. So I will miss you all next Monday night, but B'ezrat Hashem, the Monday night after that, back on full steam, God willing. Thank you all. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Nancy from Boston, Massachusetts. Thank you, Art. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you, Joe. Yes, cleaning for Pesach, exactly what it's like. Yeah. Thank you, Louise. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Avos, joining us from Baltimore. Shavua Tov, Harold. And I can't wait to see you in person, Joe. Yeah, in 2 weeks. Shira, shalom. I hope you're feeling well. I hope you're healthy. I hope you're good. Good evening, everyone else. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I'll have a safe trip. God willing. I will enjoy. Stephanie, thank you. God willing. I'll see you all in 2 weeks. B'ezrat Hashem. Oh, and the raffle, summer raffle. If you haven't bought raffle tickets, if you want to support our classes, please go to mychabadcenter.org/raffle. Again, mychabadcenter.org/raffle. Thank you. Good night. mychabadcenter.org/raffle. Laila Tov.